Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Republic of Sarah. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, picking up in the aftermath of last episode with the borders being set up kind of across every exit to Greylock, because now it's like no one from the inside can get out and no one from the outside. Well, they can get in, but they're going to be locked in and not be able to leave, because there's people who work outside of Greylock. There's hospitals, all the general supplies they need. They can need to leave Greylock to get. Plus, there's people who come into town who need to work there. So, but if they do come in here to do anything, they're going to be stuck here. So, which obviously kind of puts a hamper in certain things too, because Danny, obviously the Lighting Industries is kind of pissed because they're supposed to start the mines and stuff like that, start digging and everything, but they can't do that because if they go in, they're afraid of getting locked in. So, but obviously for Sarah, it's like, I literally got more important people to worry about than kissing corporate ass right now. For her, it's like, I'm going to, there's so many other people in need. There's even one store that has to shut down because it's like people are raiding and getting as much as they can right now because we have no idea when we're going to be able to get supplies. So things are already kind of running low, and it's like at this rate they're going to continue to run low. And so Sarah's trying to balance everything. She's trying to talk to everyone that she can, all the leaders of the surrounding places, but no one's willing to back her because the governor, she's promising to give them some of that Colton money. And it's like, essentially, she's waiting for Greylock to buckle. It's like, she's trying to starve them out. And it's like, once you buckle, then everything's going to be okay. I'm going to open up the border again. We can put all this nonsense behind us. The former mayor is not around. He's kind of outside of town at the time of all this. So, I'm sure he would have been all about this. He kind of always has been. But no one else is willing to submit because it's like, the governor is promising all this money, this Coltan money will go to this and this for your town or whatever, with schools and stuff like that. Once again, promises are easy to make. The question is, would she have actually kept him? I don't know, but it's just the bully tactic she's using in this case, rather than finding some medium, she could have been, because that's always a problem. It's the thing is, you could always be a part of progress, or you could always be looked back in history as the person. It's oh, you were standing in the way of progress. It's that type of thing of you could be more understanding. Once again, in the last episode, at the beginning, she feigned it. Oh yeah, I stand by these people who fight for I support them. And it's no, while you're actually slowly bleeding them out and stabbing them in the back while you're doing. It's I get trying to help you have your reasons what you want to do for New Hampshire, but it's you could have, and multiple times throughout the episode, Sarah's actually trying to find some form of peace, but the governor's yeah, my Coltan is actually, it's not your Coltan, it's ours. But it's yeah, but eventually it'll be mine. It's she's so smug about it. It's that doesn't help your case in any shape or form. And no matter what Sarah's trying to do, it doesn't work. She tries to get AJ to smuggle supplies across, and AJ's really, you want me to do this, threaten my career and stuff like that, and get my hair wet? It's yes, but literally no one else knows anything about boats. She's you mean other than my experience with I was a kid going fishing with my dad, that still don't make me an expert on boats? But sadly that doesn't work out, because when it rains it pours. The boat crashed, the boat sank because it was kind of an older boat or something like that. So that sucks, along with all the supplies. And some police found her, rescued her, but she got arrested for doing what she was doing, because essentially the governor was actually doubling down on support. She was even getting SWAT put on a board. I'm I think you're going extremely far for this, but it's just, once again, it's just trying to pressure them, and that's the sucky thing. So what kind of sparked her to put up the SWAT team is Tyler, Bella, and Maya gathered up a whole bunch of other students and did a protest and crossed the border, and they kind of pseudo got arrested. So that was interesting. And I love Bella being hi, Miss Cooper. She has a way kind of and obviously for her, it's why do I have students that actually listen in class and don't fall asleep like normal kids? I think some of your students, not all of them, but I think some of your students still fall in that category. But it's these three are leading the charge, but others are willing to help. Granted, I'm sure the others kind of got reprimanded by their parents, because Maya says my dad was actually all in support of this, but Bella was yeah, I doubt my dad's. Well, no, because her dad kind of called her and yelled at her about being mixed up in all of this. So it's Maya's dad is yeah, she's yeah, he actually reposted it to his Facebook 5 minutes after it got posted. It's yeah, he's all over. He's oh, look at you standing up. Like, he's so proud of her, but, like, sadly, Bella's dad, it doesn't feel the same way, so that's just fuels more of the complications between her and her dad, because I think, because she actually talks about it a little bit with Tyler, that, you know, walking through town, like, having, you know, she actually gets to feel like, she felt like she kind of could disappear in the world, and it sounds like Tyler could feel that too, like they're kind of, they have some camaraderie in that, like, they were both kind of like invisible, but for now they feel like they finally have their voices, like they feel like they can speak and someone will actually listen. Bella still is in that situation with where her dad won't listen, but now she feels like she's kind of being able to be seen and not just kind of disappear into the background, because the life her dad wants of her just means I you know, she's meant to fit this mold, and it just means like, right, just doing what he wants, and now it's like she gets to make her own choices. And, you know, I think for the first time, you know, because I guess because of her background and stuff like that, she was always a good girl of, yes, dad, sure, dad, whatever you say, dad, type of thing. And now she's kind of rebelling against her dad a little bit, which, let's face it, what teenagers do. They find some place to rebel, but hey, this feels like the type of thing to rebel, especially because most of the town is in on the rebellion too, so it's not like you're a complete rebel, but to be a part of something like that, something amazing in history, like to be a part of something like that, who wouldn't want that? Obviously, her dad is like, yeah, you get mixed up on this could screw up your chances for a better life. So it's a thing of like, I understand he is coming from a place of caring, but it's just, maybe it's stuff in his own personal life, his upbringing, where like he had to fight and get to where he was, and he doesn't want Bella to do that. He's like, I want to give you every opportunity there is for you to succeed in this world and make something yourself, because it is a place of, right, once you reach certain backgrounds, like once you're able to be in a higher level, like a CEO and stuff like that, that is where you can make the most impact. But it's at the same time, it's not, he's disrespecting her wishes of what she wants. At the same time, it's like, yeah, you're an independent woman, but you're 16. And you're my daughter, you're living under my roof. I'm sure those conversations are going to go, well, because he's sending her to a boarding school at the end of the episode. So it's like, but it's like, much like how Sarah's trying to find a middle ground, Bella's dad isn't willing to meet her in a middle ground, you know? So it's just an interesting dichotomy. But other than all of that, so every attempt Sarah's making isn't working out. There's a lot of many other contributing factors. Like, everything's kind of happening all at once. First and foremost, there's the whole thing with Grover. AJ's the one that's helping him move, and AJ's like, hey, if you want to talk about it, he's like, I'm fine. It's like, she's like, no, you're not. You're having to move out of the house you and Patience built for yourselves. The fact is that you haven't talked to anyone. You haven't really batted an eyelash. And he just kind of like, it was bubbling underneath, but he just chose not to. He just bottled it up, which is never the right thing to do about your feelings, because it causes more problems than anything. But because understandably, he was frustrated and mad. He had every right to be, but he, you know, and Sarah wants to be there for him, but AJ's like, just give him his space. The best way you can help him is by not helping him. And Grover sees her leaving, so he knows, like, right, regardless of me, like, kind of pushing you away, you're still there for me regardless. And later on, when his house catches on fire, because she was scared, she was like, oh my god, Grover, and then finds out, he's like, what happened? Like, who did this? It's like, I did it. It's like, for him, like, everything was out of control. Like, losing Patience wasn't in his control. Leiden taking his land, out of his control. But who destroys my house? I built it. I'm the only one that gets to destroy it. So it's like, but Sarah being like, you need to talk to someone. This isn't normal. Like the fact is, like, setting your house on fire. I mean, and I was wondering, I was like, would he suffer any repercussions for that? Maybe like paying some kind of fine or something like that, because the fire department had to come out of there. So maybe there's that repercussions on him. But like, I was like, it is still his land and it's his house he's burning down, because Leiden technically doesn't own the property, I guess, until like he signs over the deeds to the land and stuff like that. Maybe he hasn't quite done that yet. That process probably doesn't happen until after he's moved out. So it's probably still his. So any damage occurring on it, and you'd think he'd still have to pay something. Like, I don't think he gets arrested because he, I'm sure there's still cops in town. I'm just once again, like, I'm not sure what AJ, like, whether she actually is a sheriff or she's just a deputy, because I was like, yeah, AJ, like, getting arrested and not being in town, like, that feels like that should be more of an, but I'm like, I don't know if she is a sheriff. She might just be, like I said, a deputy, or she just might be a lower rank cop. I think I just assumed she was like the sheriff or something, because she's like the main cop we always see in the show. So I don't know. I still never pay as much attention to it as I should, but I never, like this, I don't know. Not less Grover suffer some ramifications later on, but other than all of this, you know, like I said, just everything happening all at once. along with that is the whole situation with Danny, because his mom ended up running into Piper, his fiance. Which, as a side note, I didn't recognize her last episode, but this episode, getting to see her more, I was like, that's the actress who plays Amori from the 100, which is interesting timing because, like, the actor who played John Murphy was on an episode of Kung Fu a few weeks back. So I was like, that was so cool. I think what threw me off, because obviously it's Amori, she has like markings on her face, so I almost didn't recognize her because like every time I've ever seen that actress, she's always been playing Amori, so she's had those markings. So like almost it was, oh my god, just, right? Of course you don't look any different, you look exactly the same, but it's just I'm not used to it. So I was like, it took me I was like, maybe that's why I didn't immediately recognize her last episode. But I was like, that's Amori, dude, that's so dope. But you could tell the moment she ran into Danny's mom, she knew who he was. I mean, she did go on public television, so there's that, but she probably are like, so that, I don't know if Danny ever showed her what his mom looked like anyway, but probably that press conference in the first episode probably put it in like, oh. And so she plays coy. I was like, you could tell the look on her face, like, oh. I'm sure, I was like, the moment she was like hearing Ellen talk, like you could tell Piper was kind of like I was like, oh, she knows about everything that went down there. I mean, of course, you're his fiance, but it's like, you weren't sure, like, how much Danny opened up about it. It seemed like he opened up a lot to her about that. So it's like, it almost looked like kind of like oh, here you are having these casual conversations, you drunk abuser. Like, she had disdain in her eyes looking at Ellen. But then it turns out she was immediately able to recognize that that's Danny's fiance, and she brings it up to Sarah because it's like, she has, the Iris's ring, the one that she left him, and it's like, you can say, Nana, we all liked her even if you didn't. So I'm assuming, I could be mistaken, either that's her mom or it's their dad's mom. I would assume that was her. Well, she says Nana, but I'm assuming that had to be like her mom, which I'm like, maybe those are contributing factors to why she kind of ended up the way she did. Like maybe there was something, because sadly that can be not necessarily not hereditary, but that can get passed down in the family. Like if someone was abused, they can end up abusing someone else. Like there could have been something between her and her mom that maybe Sarah and I was literally about to call him Luke, Danny, aren't privy to or don't know about. I don't know, or maybe that's just an Ellen thing. I don't know, but. For her, like, what's frustrating for Ellen is like, right, like, I am getting better. Like, I opened up about everything. Like, she's like, because I did that, I thought at the very least it opened up the door a little bit. And it's just kind of like, for Sarah's like, we were never like the most normal family. Why do you expect things to kind of go back to normal? And then she's like, he can't hold a grudge against me forever. And Sarah's like, well, he'll have those scars you gave him forever. It's like, Ellen kind of has it in her head, almost just kind of like, I've done enough to change. I've changed. Why can't he recognize that? It's almost like she's blaming him for him not like reciprocating like how she's like, no, I'm opening up. I thought that it's like, no, Mom, like you still need help. Like go to, actually, here's 1,000th time, go to a meeting or something. And then she goes to Danny's and is like saying like, it's like, I've changed and stuff like that. It's like, she's like, I'm sober now. He's like, yeah, really? When was the last time you had a drink? And she doesn't say anything. He's like, right. Because Sarah had said like, right, every time I pour out the whiskey, like I find like another 5th bottle you found to replace it. So it's not like she stopped. Like obviously the stress of all this, sure, but she hasn't really coped with everything. She's still using alcohol, as her crutch. And Danny like doesn't want to accept it's just kind of like, no, I want you nothing, nowhere near my life, yada yada. Like that's why like I'm got good stuff in my life, and because he was even telling Piper like, right, he didn't want her sticking around because he didn't want his past and his future to collide, and so because of that he ended up closing the door on his mom and just like, go, leave me alone. But she's still knocking at the door, and for him that was triggering, and we find out why, because that's the exact same thing that would happen whenever she would before like he got hurt by her. Like she'd become banging on his closet door when he tried, I guess, to hide it away from her. And so, and you could tell it's triggering, and Piper's there for him, and she calls her out. It's like, your son wants nothing to do with you, because he was even saying like, you're not invited to the wedding, you stay out of my life. And for Piper it was like, he's such a nice, caring, funny person, but you would never know that. So it's like, leave, and you come knocking on his door again, I'll give you some scars of your own. I was like, oh snap! It's like, and I think that's so dope. In a sense, it's kind of sad that that dynamic is what it is, but at the same time, it's like, it's like, right. So once again, she knows all that Ellen did, and I think in that moment, it's what Sarah had said to her, like, change for yourself, not for Danny. It's a thing of like, if you're trying so hard to change yourself for other people, like, it's almost, you're bound to fail. Like, change because you have to want it to, like, change for yourself. You can't just, like, force it upon other people, change, and I think this was kind of a massive wake-up call for her, because we do see at the end of the episode, she's going to a meeting. It's like the first one she's been to in this episode, in the series so far, especially considering Sarah keeps pushing it, Because I'm sure Danny has some, like, sort of resentment towards Sarah, because it's like, right, you're still looking after our mom despite everything. But I think he also doesn't hold that against her, because I get it, it's mom. Like, but at the same time, it's just like, I can't be there. I'm not there yet. Who knows if I ever will be, Because obviously she's a little, Sarah ends up finding out about the engagement from her mom, but then Danny accidentally lets it slip that Corinne knew, because he thought, like, right, Corinne's how you found out, right? It's like, no. Mom told me. It's like, wait, so not only did you not tell me you were engaged, apparently everyone else but me knows, because they used to be so tight when they were younger, but, like, obviously he cut them out of their lives for, like, the past 6 years. And, she confronts Corinne about it, and it's like, I thought your brother would have told you. It's like, my best friend didn't tell me, while she's also dealing with all this other stuff. And I think for, eventually Corinne kind of opens up. She's like, right, I ran into Danny, like, I went to his hotel room, and that's when I met Piper. She's like, why were you there? It's like, it's not important, because she was kind of hoping, like, not quite sure what she was kind of hoping, like, whether it was going to be a thing of kind of picking up where things kind of left off between them. Like, she's like, oh, he's a different person. Like, oh, so he is kind of not the D-bag I knew and kind of resented for the past years. And to find out, oh, it's right, he moved on, I moved on, like, I need to just leave it at that. But, that's what kind of, but she's kind of like, it's not important, but, because her main reason was, like, because if she had told Sarah about finding out that he was engaged, it would have meant admitting, in her mind, the embarrassing reason why I actually went over there, and she didn't want to ever admit why she actually went over there. And I think she's not 100% sure why. Like, I think she has some idea, but she's not going to let Sarah know, because it's not important, as she said. But I think the fact that you went over there is important. Like, there's still something there. And I think Danny kind of felt it too when he closed the door, but, we'll see. Once again, he had no intentions of staying in Greylock. It was meant to be in and out, bury this town, forget everything about it, and just go back to my life in New York. But life's a lot more complicated than that. Things aren't never going to be that simple. Which, Corinne talks about that with Danny later on too, where it's like, right, you didn't even tell your own sister you were engaged. And it's like, I get it. You're afraid that if you told your sister, your mom would have found out, so you're trying to keep her as much out of your life. But don't do that to your sister, because obviously you care. I mean, you wouldn't have stopped the whole blackmail against her. He's like, that was just a job. She's like, no, you might try and put up those defenses, but I know who you really are on the inside. I know that you care about your sister. It's like, Sarah never got it from your mom, and we now find out why. Because because normally in situations like that, it doesn't just stop the one child. One child could be the brunt of it, and one not get it as much. Because we never really got those conversations. But it's because Danny always made sure to, like, piss their mom off enough so that all her fury was towards him. It's like, so that she came knocking at your closet door and not your sister. So it's like, even back then you were protecting her because she needed you, and she needs you now. So kind of don't cut her out of her life, because you do care about her regardless of it. Like, the main reason that he cut her out, just because, like, it's nothing against his sister. Like I said, maybe there's some small part of, like, right, you're taking care of mom and everything, you still care for mom. It's that. But I think it's mainly, right, if he gets Sarah back in his life, he was afraid that Ellen would have came as, like, it's kind of a 2-for-1 package. Like, if I accept Sarah back in my life, I automatically have to, like, deal with my mom back in my life too. So I think that was always his biggest reservation of, like, keeping Sarah in his life, so. But, so there's that element. And then there's the whole situation with Sarah's students coming to her about, right, like, their protest got a lot of attention on the internet. But also that's why the governor started giving people an opportunity. It's like, hey, it's a one-way ticket out of this town. It's kind of a now thing. Like if you do it now, there'll be no repercussions against you. You'll kind of get sanctuary type of situation. And it's like, why is she offering it now? Because publicly she's getting a lot of backlash for what she's done because a lot of people aren't supporting her anymore. And then, it took her students pointing out like, right, you've been doing this all on your own. And that's the point. Sarah, there's a whole group. There's AJ, there's Corinne. Things are complicated between her and Grover, but it's always been like she's relied heavily on herself. They're like, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like, before, at least last episode, she was at least, asking people for help with stuff. But I think this time she kind of cordoned off because it's like, right, I took ownership as the leader, so it's up to me as a leader. But it's like, right, leaders have people they can rely on. Like, you don't have to carry everything on your own. Like, there are people here to help you, and so she makes a public video saying, like, there is no I, it's we together are brave, we is invincible. It's like, there's no, I've been handling, because it's not just her thing, like, this is us as a community are strong, so they do a peaceful protest. You can tell things are going to go a little sideways, because I'm like, yeah, I mean, sadly, some rabble-rousers will always turn something that is very peaceful into, but it almost, at least from what we saw, it's like, it looked like the SWAT team was already, like, on the offensive. They were ready for things to go wrong. They seemed like they locked up first, but Sarah gets locked up again. Which, really quickly, before we even got to all of that, I do love that earlier in the episode, it's like, yeah, sorry, it's like, no, she's like, I'm so proud of you. And then it seems like some older lady walks by and she's like, I can't believe you guys did that. And she's whispering, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, it's like, I love the mixed messaging. Because it's like, right, I got to be, right. When people are around, I got to be the stern teacher, reprimanding you for what you did, but at the same time, like, the rebellious person that I am is like, oh my god, I'm so proud of you guys standing up for what you believe in. That's so dope. That's an aspect we should, teach our kids, to I'm saying that metaphorically, not in the sense of like, I'm saying that, not saying that as a parent or anything like that, because I'm not one, but you get what I'm trying to say. So I just thought that was kind of dope. But Sarah getting arrested again, I'm like, are we going to see a lot of that? It's like, this is your second time getting arrested. It's like, it's going to start a pattern. But because of the public nature of that whole thing, the governor had to back down because she was looking a little bad. Her polls are down and stuff like that. So people are not supporting her. A lot of people who were supporting her before backed down because, like, right, we don't want to be publicly crucified for the fact is that we're supporting what the governor does. So they put back down, not necessarily 100% because it's morally the right thing, but because it's like, we gotta save face. It's kind of all that comes down to. So Sarah uses this leverage to say, like, let's come to peace. The fact of the matter is, Greylock will keep to itself. You will be able to, but we'll stay out of your way. You convince the Canadian border to open up. Your friends at the Canadian border to open up. It's like, this way, it's kind of a win-win because publicly you save face. Hell, we can even have a meeting where a public speaking thing together, and you could take credit for the entire truce and stuff like that. So it seems like the governor kind of like gives in to what Sarah wants. So this is the last we'll deal with this. Maybe. We don't know what future issues are going to come their way. But at the same time, Grover sits down with her, and he's like, you were right. I do need to talk to somebody, because he's been carrying this whole thing by himself, because what Sarah said wasn't just about Greylock, it was about him. Like, this whole thing with Patience and their house and everything, like, he has been carrying that with him. Ever since Patience died, like, he's been carrying all of that, and it's just been more and more. Once again, he's been bottling a lot of stuff up, but it's like, right, I do need to talk to somebody. And it's like, well, what are you going to do after all that? Like, what about your housing situation? Where are you going to live? He's like, I'm nearby the lake. And she's like, our lake? He's like, of course our lake. He's like, I'm not going to leave Greylock. My job's here. My friends are here. You're here. And I think that's a big distinction where it's kind of like right, you're not in the friend category anymore. You're in that very, like, ambiguous, because, like, you both are feeling it, but he also needs time too. And he's just, give me time. And Sarah's like, however long it takes, I'll wait here as long as it takes, so it's nice to know that they're kind of in a better spot. I hope because Grover does end up visiting Patience's grave, and like he had the door sign, the welcome sign that he had made from the tree that they had kissed near, he brought that to her grave, and it's like, he's like, I'm going to talk to somebody about you, and I hope, like, up in heaven you're listening. Kind of like hoping that he has her support with all of that. So We never did get a resolution to like what AJ's circumstances are. That might be a thing we gotta deal with next episode, where she suffers some professional repercussions for what she did, kind of following Sarah's lead on that. But so there's that. I did like, things kind of being better between her and her brother, since Danny shows up and like, right, this is Sarah, this is my fiance Piper, this is my sister Sarah, and they kind of shake hands and it's like, oh, fixing lunch, you guys want to stay? And it's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's good, bridging that gap between them after everything. And I think Danny will like switch sides. He's kind of playing a little bit of in between. He's kind of the middleman between Lyden and Sarah anyway, but I think he will choose Sarah's side at the end, It's definitely going to be interesting to see where all this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.